Welcome to IDP Connect. Please enter your conference ID followed by the pound key. Welcome to the conference room. Please enter your password. At the tone, please report your name followed by the pound key.
I'm a PALTIEL.
Thank you. Your participant number 3.
You ready? Yeah. I will start a little bit back, 3 lines from the bottom on page p85. We're speaking about the principle of milo umato, higher and lower. And the way it is being presented here, higher and lower, people think higher means that which is closer to the source, and lower is lower to the further away from the source. It's called AYIN v'tachta. But the Rebbe insists that we understand the meaning from Milo Mato from a different perspective. Not Milo Mato relative to the source, but Milo Mato in an essential sense. That which is higher and that which is lower. Higher and lower, as the Rebbe defines it, is more oil or less oil. And the Rebbe explains this definitively. Now it's hard to understand that this is our problem. But he explains that in principle this is how it is.
Less or and more or just sounds like another way of saying closer and further from source.
No, that's what he says. It could be, closer to the source, and further to the source, and yet it does not constitute more or less oil. In other words, more oil and less oil is referring to the oil as it is experienced by the entity, rather than what its proximity to its source. Now, moichin, Sechel, it consists completely of oil. Even though there could be a higher Sechel and a lower Sechel. But we gave very, very simple illustrations of this principle, and I hope that we get the point. On the simplest level, 1 and 1 equals to 2. Now, what is the difference between 2 and 1 and 1? Is there any difference? What's the difference?
Uniting factor.
1 and 1 is also there. And what is the principle behind it? As we pointed out, the story with the dog I told you, one-on-one, the animal can also relate. Only a human being can conceptualize that one is two. And two has a completely different inference. As a matter of fact, two does not refer to a physical entity. One-on-one refers to a physical entity. Two does not refer to a physical entity. It's a concept which consists entirely of oir. This is the thing that Rebbe is pointing out. That Moichin is a higher madrega not because it's higher, closer to the source, but because it has more oil. I said 3 lines from the bottom. To have a complete thing, we'll start the line before at the end. Moichin are bivchinas milo. What is bivchinas milo? They have the aspect of being higher, not because of their position, but they represent something higher. Because in Moichin there is more oil. As I said, here the mashal, in a simple mashal, in one-on-one, the whole concept of two is an oil concept. However, but when the oil and the gil, that which comes to the fore, that which is revealed, who b'sholeh b'chol ha'sfiros is yikul in all the spheres. Im heyois, despite the fact shehei mechulokim b'madrigosom be'etzem, even though these spheres are different in their madrigas, be'etzem in essence they are different madrigas. One is higher madriga than the other. But who in your Rosh V'Sov? This is closer to the source. Rosh V'Sov, the head and the beginning and the end. Beginning is closer to the source, and the end is further from the source. So they're in essence mechulikim in their madrega be'etzem. Nonetheless, okay, this is really challenging, and we are going through this only for the 4th time. We don't give up. Nonetheless, ein ze bivchinas milo mato. It does not justify it to be referred to as milo mato, higher and lower. Because there is not a difference in essence of the oil element.
What?
There's not a difference in the oil element.
In the oil.
We spoke about the example of standing up on the Empire State Building and looking down on the street. And we used that to illustrate various things. The bottom line is, yes, when standing on the Empire State Building, and you see the entire labyrinth of streets, it's a completely different clarity. Like we explained to explain various experiences. Nonetheless, you are still referring to, you still seeing it as street leading the street, street leading the street. It's not based on oil. It's based on actual mitzvahs. Do we get the point? Yes, you see the A point and B point simultaneously. You see their proximity to each other. Nonetheless, if you were going to lead somebody to go from A to B, you have to lead. You will identify their path, their marshroute, their path via the connecting streets. I'm not going to tell them air miles how you connect the two places. That's not how you connect it. And you also don't connect it that way. You see that they're in the same place because of the connecting streets. So it's not the oil that relates them, even though you're on a higher level. And you see it from almost unobstructedly. Now take the same inyan and view it not for practical purposes, but just to see. You're standing here in point A, and you're looking at point B, and you recognize point B, and you see it inside. You don't go to the street contours and to the various valleys and hills. You see how these two places are really in one place, in one area. It's all one. Then you're looking at it from the oil perspective, completely different reference. Like when we sight things, when you come into a room and there are chairs and tables and chairs, and you sight the place you want to go to, you don't sight it by identifying the obstructions, how you're going to get there. You sight it because you see the thing directly. The obstructions are not obstructions at all. You go straight to the point. The fact that you have to go around the tables and chairs, that's inadvertent. You didn't contemplate that initially when you identified the two places. This means that this is an oil. This is a completely different thing. This is what Rebbe said. But when the two madreyas are the same oil, then they don't have. This is not the from milo mat. This is not the principle of higher and lower. Although one is the madriga is higher than the other, but it's not in the principle of higher and lower. It has more oil and less oil. That's higher and lower. It understands it more readily and more clearly. That's not higher and lower. And even at the end of the second line, we already touched on this before. As for example, the Rebbe is giving the example. When is it possible that you have different koiches of different madrigas and have the oil identified the same way, equally? How can it be? What's a high madriga? It would be more oil. As in the case, we tried many times. I think we have a few minutes. When come to the fourth, I revealed. What is koiches atzmiyim?
Wait, this is like what?
Koiches atzmiyim are, you can have higher koiches and lower koiches, but the oil is the same in all, and therefore there is not the inyan for higher and lower. So the emotion that we used for that was the phenomenon of a Baal Moon. Somebody is a Balmum, he has some kind of a blemish in his body. And that renders him unfit to do Avedim B'Zamirush. And there it doesn't make many difference what the moon is. Whether the moon is an impaired sight, or the moon is the little pinky of the left foot. How is that justified? How is that justified to be referred as a Baal Moon? He's not hampered at all in terms of his activity. He's not even aware of the fact that his pinky is not complete functionally, and yet it's a Baal Moon. Because when we talk about Atzmius, there it has to be complete in every aspect, not because of functionality, but because of its perfectionality. Where does this perfection come from? And here's the thing that I'd like you to understand. Where does the perfection come from? How come a human being is made with 2 legs, 2 hands, 5 fingers on each hand? And each finger has a certain proximity relative to the other. This whole design. What's the cause for all that? There is not a cause. This is the way it is conceptualized in the origin of human being, of human conceptualization. How God Himself conceptualized human beings. Excuse me.
The point here that the human design is conceived above. What's the nimshal is that what? What are we bringing up?
Atzmi. Kirchis Atzmi that are conceptualized by the Etzem, by the Creator, not how they reflect themselves in the created, in the human being.
Oh, so okay, fine. So in that schema, in that vision, the pinky is as important as the head. All is
Absolutely.
equal.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is a phenomenal illustration of the principle. There was a whole lishke. You know what a lishke is? A whole office in Beis Hamikdash, where Kehanim used to sit and examine every new koyach, identify whether he's a Balmum or he's not a Balmum. It's a whole AYIN. It was not an easy thing. It has to be done very meticulously. And when the Kohen was declared Sholem, he used to go out and make a feast, a celebration. He used to say, Baruch Hashem, if he didn't find a moon, Bizarre Shalahari. He's not in his offspring. It was a whole celebration. Because this is a different kind of completeness than on the human level. It's completeness on the divine level. Like I say many times, a hypothetical question. You conceptualize a table in your mind, and then you draw a schematic of it, and you give it to a carpenter and say, "Make me a table like this." By the time the table is finished, comes from out of the hand of the carpenter, it's not what you conceptualize in your mind. When you conceptualize in your mind, it has some kind of affinity with your character. You conceptualize it because this is something that you relate to. It's your own design. The carpenter could not approximate, could not reflect that. He can reflect the table the way he understands it. It came from a schematic. It's perfect, but it's not reflecting the essence, the spirit with which you conceptualize. It's an interesting thing. The great Chacham were able, I remember the story about the Mitzvah Rebbe was able to identify a chair that was built by someone who had a certain damage in his right eye. A perfect chair. But this chair, the builder had a certain that kind of a spirit is oyer. It does not reflect itself in the final product at all. There was some kind of an imperfection in the production of this entity. The entity is perfect from a schematic perspective, but not from a conceptualized perspective, not from a nefesh perspective, not from an oil perspective.
This example now, the table is indicating the opposite to what we had by the Kohen.
By what?
The
By
Kohen.
That's
There, where he was perfect, then he was a perfect representation of Hashem's design. Mashiach to create the table, it never reflects what the one had in mind. Yeah,
that's right. Because it's not. I said, imagine the table coming right out from your thought into
reality, which is kind of what we did say about the Kohen, about the human form. Fine. Why? It seems, why was it koyach atzmi, not tzura atzmi or guf atzmi? I mean, an essential. Why koyach atzmi, right? I mean, we're talking about an essential creation, or
we're talking about chokhmah and bina. Koyach atzmi. We just now, I finished explaining that moichin are higher than midas. The Rebbe says, Moichin are higher than Midas. Because in Moichin there is more oil than in Midas. But on the level of Koyches Atzmihim, there is not that distinction. Koyches Atzmihim, there is not more oil in the Moichin than in the Midas. That remains our challenge to us to understand how that's possible. But that's what we say. Koyches Atzmihim. Then the oil is not distinctive, whether it's a higher koyach or not. Even though it remains a higher koyach, Moichin remain higher than Midas, and yet the oil is equal. So to understand this principle, how this is possible, we give this mashal that mitzad the etzem, you're looking at perfection of a different kind, not on a functional level, but on an essential level. Any imperfection is the same as a major imperfection. Makes no difference. On the other hand, if it is perfect, it makes no difference what level koyach is. It represents the etzem. The human pinky represents the human being as it was conceptualized in the divine wisdom, equally with the human brain. And the eye.
Yeah. On the one hand, it's putting them on the same level. The pinky and the head get completely nullified to the essential design.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, but at the exact same time, from the perspective of the designer, the head is more crucial than the pinky.
No. So etzem,
Yeah.
it's either perfect or not perfect.
Like, okay, we're using...
One second. You're jumping too quickly. What does that mean? From an etzem perspective, a human being who has a pinky damage is not a human being.
Right, and the mind and the emotions are all on the same level. What is that? I'm not getting how we would relate to that much, or I mean, I get the mashal with the Kohen and that everything is kind of.
I explained to you what is it. You have to focus in on the words, and then bring it into your intellect. What's mean koiches atzmiyim? What's atzmiyim mean? Atzmiyim means on the essential level. But koiches are functional. They're not on an essential level. On the essential level needs koiches. Koiches you need when it comes to the functional level. Right? So we say no. In its original concept, in the Creator's mind, so to speak, the human being was so designed, I said, with 5 fingers on each hand and five toes on each foot, not because of functionality. But because in essence that's what a human being is. In this respect, every aspect of this human being represents the essence, how it is conceptualized. It's nothing to do with oil. It has nothing to do with perfection or imperfection. It's just the reality of it.
And the fact that a man can live without a pinky, but he cannot live without his head, it becomes completely irrelevant.
That's right. Because when you're talking about living, we're not talking about etzem. We're talking about functional. Etzem is what he is in his origin. Because without the etzem, he's always perfect. Like we said many times, from an essential perspective, you have a dining room that's empty of furniture, but the furniture is there already. Because that's the etzem a dining room. Because there is that essential reality in a dining room. This is why when you bring furnishing in, you know immediately where it belongs. Because you surmise it before they came into being. Because in essence, a dining room has chairs and tables.
Right, so if essence is always perfect, selecting the Kohen was just a matter of choosing the guy who kind of represents that perfection?
Rebbe PALTIEL?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, oh.
Can I ask?
Where is the sound coming from? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what becomes now in this context of the meaning of mile and mata? There is no such thing?
That's right.
This is above mile and mata.
That's correct. Etzem is above mile and mata.
It doesn't matter how much oil there is, basically. Is that true?
That is true. There is not. We said the following. If you have a home, and in your home you have an attic. The attic is a little thing above your dwelling, which you never visited. You have no idea what it looks like and what its capacity is. And if somebody moves into your attic and establishes residence over there, and he gets in there without interfering with your whereabouts whatsoever, he goes through the chimney, whatever it is, and establishes residence in that attic. He can sit there for years, you wouldn't even know that he's there. Would you let him do it or not?
Of course not.
With me?
Of course not.
Of course not. I have to think why. What's behind that? I had the experience of talking about this on the plane with somebody who doesn't have your kind of exposure. So at first he said, "Yeah, maybe I should let him. He's a pauper, he doesn't have what to be, maybe I should let him." After a few gyrations, he comes up, "No, I wouldn't let him." Now when you walk up to his human conception, I know I wouldn't let him. The difference in the thought process, whether you think of a human being as an evolutionary or as a godly creation, is paramount. Paramount. The godly creation is a wholesome presence. Everything that is human touches him. In the symbiotic process of evolution, he's a pieces pieced together from the little pieces. There's no perfection, there's no reality, there's no wholesome presence. Maybe I should let him, maybe I shouldn't let him. It happens that this guy did have some exposure, and ultimately he came back and says, "No, I wouldn't let him." Now, but he does have a neshama, a sense of life. Then with this, after our flight, I was able to put on tefillin on him. All right. So, 2 lines from the bottom. Towards the end of the line. Maybe his galus kechetzatmi. As in the case of his galus, of coming forth of the koiches atzmiyim, the koiches, the way they are conceptualized from the Creator's perspective, not the way they function in the Creator. So there, although shehamoichin be'etzem, the hamoichin essence, heim b'madrigo elinim me'amidus. The essence in moichin are in a higher madrega than the midus. Komo kaim yet still, me'achar she'oir hanefesh meir b'hem b'shovet. Being that the oir hanefesh, what's oil hanefesh? The oil of the human soul, the human reality, shines in them b'shova equally, whether it is in midos or in meichin. Why does a person have midos? Because he's human. Why does a person have meichin? Because he's human. It's exactly the same response, identically. So oil hanefesh is burned on the shoulder. Ein zeh b'vchinas ma'alo mato. Therefore, that does not constitute the principle of ma'alo mato, higher and lower. Because the oil hanefesh is equal to them. Although moichin is in a higher madriga than this. Be'etzem. Ukmoi kein hu b'adugma l'maylo. And this same union is reflected in the way it is l'maylo. This we didn't learn yet, okay? This is the first time we got into this. K'moi bo'elam hatoihu. K'moi bo'elam hatoihu. The same union is in l'maylo. As it is, for example, bo'elam hatoihu, in the oilam that's called toihu. Toihu means disorganized world. Not tikkun, an oilam that is organized in a certain structure, in a certain order. Toihu, everything is everywhere. Where there was not, in this bechina, in this aspect of ma'alo mato, higher and lower. Oil Matoyu is in essence a higher world than Oil Matika. To the extent that there was no higher and lower. Because the oil permeated the entire materials of the earth, of the world. Okay. We finally finished the size. We finished Ois Lamed Zayin. Believe me. Okay. Have a great day.